Okay, well, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to be part of today's webinar, and I'm very excited to share Amy's perspective and what we've been doing that's standards-related efforts for the pandemic. During my brief remarks today, I want to give the audience a sense of what we've heard from the AMY community regarding practical information and guidance needs in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, highlight some of our standards and standards-derived resources that are relevant to decontamination and disinfection, and also describe some areas where we're beginning to hear that there are still gaps in existing guidance. Next slide, please. Okay, so to set the stage a bit, and for those who might be a little bit less familiar, I'd like to provide just a brief background about AMY. We were founded in 1967. We've been a standards developing organization since our beginning, and we were accredited by the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI, in 1977 to develop American National Standards. And we also now administer a number of ISO and IEC technical committees and U.S. technical advisory groups. One of the things that AMY is well known for and does very well is convening diverse community, and we have over 9,000 healthcare technology professionals that have a common mission to develop, manage, and use safe and effective health technology. And we bring together groups to solve problems. One method for that is development of standards to address very specific problems in specific areas. AMY is the primary source of standards for the medical device industry, and that includes both U.S.-oriented standards and also international standards. Our standards program currently consists of about 230 technical committees with thousands of volunteers that develop and maintain standards across a wide range of medical devices and related topics, such as sterilization of healthcare products. It's important to note that AMY standards staff are not technical experts, but we are standards development experts. So we bring together the technical experts to write the standards and guidance documents. The next slide. Okay, to shift into our efforts in light of COVID-19, by early March, AMY was receiving a high volume of inquiries from our members and from others in the stakeholder community pertaining to COVID-19. We've continued to receive quite a volume of questions over the past 4+ months, and the majority of inquiries really fall into about 3 broad categories. I think we should be back one, actually. One slide. Other direction. There we go. Okay. All right. Some of the biggest areas where we got questions were ventilators and shortages of these critical equipment, personal protective equipment, or PPE, what should be used to protect healthcare workers and what to do in light of shortfalls in supply, and also general questions about decontamination, disinfection, and sterilization to prevent infection from handling devices and patient care equipment, and also reducing risk of patient-to-patient transmission. So these questions have come from established manufacturers as well as new manufacturers who are stepping up to fill shortages in critical supplies. Also received a lot of questions from healthcare facilities, so everyone from sterile processing professionals, infection preventionists, and also health technology managers in healthcare facilities. So we had a lot of questions about what do they need to do if they're going into patient rooms that might have been treated by, might be receiving treatment for COVID or suspected COVID, and what they needed to do in handling that equipment. Next slide. So one of the very first things that AMY did to assist the community was to pull together a comprehensive online directory of resources, including standards, guidance, recommendations, specifications, and points of contact for a variety of relevant medical devices and equipment that can be used for COVID-19. And this was partly in response to a request from the US FDA, which has also been receiving, as you might expect, a really high number of public inquiries. And they desperately needed a good, thorough resource to direct these inquiries to. We also very quickly created a COVID-19 response team of technical experts who developed several new emergency guidance consensus reports to enable rapid development of safe and effective emergency use ventilators and resuscitators. And these correspond to the FDA emergency use authorizations, or EUAs. We also wanted to ensure access to some of the standards and technical reports that are most relevant for dealing with the pandemic, and we made 3 documents publicly available, 2 that pertain to PPE and protective barriers, 1 that pertains to disinfection of patient care equipment and sterile processing environmental surfaces. So those can be downloaded absolutely free. We also wanted to keep pace with the evolving situation and provide timely information. So we put together and hosted a number of webinars that focused on sterilization and decontamination issues. The first of these topics was held at the end of March and addressed COVID-19 relevant guidelines and standards at that time. And right away, a number of FDA EUAs were starting to be released. And particularly noteworthy, perhaps, are the EUAs around decontamination of N95 respirators. So we subsequently hosted 2 webinars on that topic, one in late April and the other in early May, and both of which had several thousand attendees. In fact, we maxed out capacity for our webinar software, which gives you a sense of how dire the situation was and the extent of the need for information in light of the shortfalls of N95 supplies. So next slide. So as far as future direction, AME continues to keep a pulse on the questions that we're receiving from the public and get a sense of where the critical needs are, particularly any shifts in needs or any new developments, anything that might point to gaps in existing guidance related to COVID-19. And that can be potentially addressed by bringing together the experts, the technical experts, to develop new resources. And of course, you know, as the situation continues to evolve and we learn more about it and the more we hear from our community, the better we're able to work together to create resources that distill our collective expertise to help combat the pandemic. So with that, I will turn it back over to the host.
Thank you, Amanda. I've been an AME member for 45 years, and I am extremely grateful for the rapid action and support of WHO, IFMBE, CED, and everyone else in providing free access to so many standards and convening committees to come up with new guidance and guidelines for ventilators, disinfection, and other practices. It's very important, and we